the samurai scouts bring news that there's an army on its way. They rally the troops. But it's too late. The Bamboo Battalion is on them. The Rock Samurais are ambushed at their own entrance. When times are tough, giant killer hornets turn on their own kind.
Welcome back. Well, it's been dubbed the murder hornet.
Just as if 2020 couldn't get any worse.
He thought it couldn't get any worse. An invasive and potentially deadly hornet.
Now with what's called murder hornets.
It's safe to say that 2020 has been a year for the books. And in the midst of this pandemic, now we're learning about a murder hornet that has made its way into the United States for the first time.
Tonight, killer hornets invading the U.S. and Canada. Asian giant hornets, also known as murder hornets, spotted in Washington state, and they prey on honeybees that pollinate much of our food.
Asian giant hornets, nicknamed murder hornets, have a venomous sting that can kill someone if they're stung several times. They're even strong enough to puncture a beekeeper's suit. Scientists say the 2-inch-long hornets were spotted in Washington state in December and have been attacking beehives. It's still unclear how they made it to the U.S.
Now to the hunt for the invasive species that has scientists on high alert. The so-called murder hornets arriving in the United States for the first time, and experts are warning they could decimate bee populations across the U.S.
It's one scary bug. They originate in Asia, where they're nicknamed the murder hornet for swarming and killing people.
The first detection was in Washington state was December 8th and was turned in by a homeowner near Blaine, which is up by the Canadian border.
So far, the giant hornets have been found at 2 locations in BC and more recently in northern Washington state.
And it's a fairly significant detection because Asian giant hornet has been on our watch list because of its basically because of its known activity of killing entire honeybee hives.
Spickager warns of a catastrophic impact on pollination and agricultural systems if the hornets were to start spreading across the U.S.
A massacre in the honeycombs.
There were dead bees all over the front of the hive, all over the bottom board, and they all had all been chopped to bits. They were decapitated.
Beekeeper Ted McFall says he went to check on a hive one morning in November and found an entire colony destroyed. 60,000 honeybees torn apart in a savage attack.
They're basically just the biggest hornet you've ever seen.
The threat is to honeybees, where they've been known to decimate entire colonies in a matter of hours. They rip their heads off and take the thorax for food. The hornets have now been spotted in Washington state, but they were first seen in Nanaimo, BC last September.
And all it takes is a couple dozen of the Asian giant hornets to show up and start lopping off heads.
Dubbed the murder hornet for its powerful sting and the way it decapitates its prey, this is the first time the world's largest hornet has been seen in the U.S. In its native Asia, Vespa mandarinia is notorious, seen on programs like Netflix's 72 Dangerous Animals. Washington State entomologist Chris Looney says the clock is ticking. While Japanese bees have evolved to create self-defense systems, North American bees have no idea how to fight an alien predator like this. Bee Lives Matter experts say not just for honey, but the entire food system.
The pollination that honeybees do for our food supply cannot be understated. I mean, there's so many fruits and vegetables that are dependent on honeybees.
In other words, a threat to the bee is a threat to you and me.
Bees go, we go. So they pollinate 1 in 3 pieces of food we eat. So we have to protect these little guys.
These hornets grow up to 2 inches long, roughly 5 times the size of a bee. And in Japan, where they originate, they reportedly kill up to 50 people each year. They're giant stingers capable of piercing a beekeeper's suit.
The mandibles, there we go, you can sort of see them, are pretty large. They're very, very sharp, and that's what they use to decapitate bees, and then they'll mash up the thorax into a meatball, they call it, and fly it back to feed to their larvae.
The hornets can destroy an entire beehive in a matter of hours.
They have a 1-year life cycle, and so every year we can keep a nest from reproducing, then we win.
The hornets also pose a threat to humans. Adventurer and YouTube personality Coyote Peterson tracked one down in Japan to demonstrate how painful their sting can be.
Ah! Searing pain!
A few dozen stings can be fatal. Asian giant hornets kill around 30 to 50 people a year.
There have been significant annual casualties as a result of this defensive behavior of these hornets. You're talking about a few dozen people every year, at least in Japan.
Yes, Amy, dozens of people per year in Japan. People who have been stung by a murder hornet say it feels like hot metal driving into the skin.
John Halubeshin was stung, and he said the pain was excruciating.
Like being physically hit in the chest, kind of like a bruised rib. That pain persisted for about 16 hours. They looked cartoonish and prehistoric.
Like Jurassic Park, something out of Jurassic Park.
Bigger than they should be.
We really don't want any private citizen trying to mess with an Asian giant hornet nest. Typical beekeeping attire simply will not protect you. The stinger on this insect is 6 millimeters long and will go readily through most cloths.
That's the queen.
Oh, look at her.
My reaction was, holy smokes, that's a big wasp. And they are, in fact, the largest species of wasp on the planet.
But he paid a big price despite his protective beekeeper suit.
The enraged hornets immediately stung me across the tops of my thighs. It was like having red-hot thumbtacks driven into one's flesh. And not everybody is into that. So it was quite painful.
Not many left, though.
He was stung 7 times, even through a thick leather glove, and he still has the scars from its powerful venom.
The United Nations says locust swarms are threatening the food supply of millions. They've devastated thousands of crops as they move across parts of Africa.
وين مسكوا جراد حاخذين فاضل شوفوهم وين حصفارت بيبشمن
الشمس ما تنشاف سبحان الله العظيم.
And it's landing on hot soil.
Yes.
Yeah?
Where by that?